Election of the new Benue Speaker is coming amidst the conversation on the 10th National Assembly and who will be its principal officers. Let's bring in from Abuja studio the Nigerian ambassador to Burundi, Elijah Onyeagba. He would walk us through the pains and gains of the subsidy removal and the race for principal officers in the National Assembly. Good to have you join us.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure.
So I want to begin with the fuel subsidy removal. I know you're an economist. I always refer to that every time I get a chance to speak with you. You are an economist. You worked in the banking sector. So talk to us about your thoughts on the fuel subsidy removal and its consequences as we are seeing today in the country.
Thank you very much. First, this is one of the most important steps that the president will have to take to be able to get the country in the right trajectory. What subsidy does basically is to shift the supply curve of petroleum products to the right, meaning that there will be a lot more of the product and people will buy it at a cheaper price. What has happened over the years is that for the 40 years we've had crude oil in Nigeria, government has been stepping in to ensure that the price is maintained at a certain level. At the moment, every petroleum product consumed in Nigeria is imported into the country. So the cost of petrol that we buy at the various filling stations has got the cost of the product itself, the cost of freights, the cost of storage, the cost of distribution, and the profit margin. But what happens is that irrespective of these various price inputs, government has ensured over the years that the price is maintained at a particular level, meaning that government has been bearing that loss. For year 2022, for example, the government spent about $10 billion subsidizing petrol for Nigerians. And typically, what do you expect a responsible government to do? The responsibility of government is to allocate resources that are scarce. These resources must be efficiently allocated. So when you don't allocate them efficiently, you will find out that there are opportunity costs. I will explain to Nigerians why this is important and why so. Nigeria requires about $80 to $100 billion investment in infrastructure on a year-on-year basis to be able to close the infrastructure gap. What is going on here is that we are using the resources that we should apply towards infrastructure, towards education, towards health services to ensure that Nigerians buy cheap fuel. Now there's a study as well, which I'm going to share now, that talked about the fact that about 40% of poorest Nigerians spend about 3% on petroleum products. Okay, just about 40% of them consume 3% of petroleum products. What this means is that a lot of people that consume this subsidized fuel are actually not poor people in Nigeria. So we need to ask ourselves a very critical question. What are the opportunity costs? The reason why we have infrastructure gap in Nigeria today is because we are subsidizing petroleum products. The reason why our education sector and health services are not improved is because the resources that should have been channeled into these very important sectors are going as petroleum product subsidy. So it's important that we understand this. This is not to make light of the fact that there will be a lot of difficulties for the ordinary man, but the truth of the matter is that we have always done this over the years, and we cannot continue to do that. We are explaining to the ordinary men on the street that Nigeria is paying X amount of money. Yes? Can you hear me?
Because you mentioned the 3%, right? And I wanted to ask you about it because it looks like they are the ones who will also bear the brunt when it's removed because of the increase in the cost of food and other items. And I wanted to ask you how they should be protected. What should be done going forward to minimize the impact on that 3%?
Yes, what I believe that government is doing at the moment is look at various palliative options. What is it that can be done? Don't forget that the concept of subsidy economically is actually meant to be targeted. Petroleum subsidy in Nigeria is not something that has been done the right way over the years, because I talked about 3% consumption in fuel done by 40% of the poorest of the Nigerians. So basically what we are hoping that the government will look at doing at this point in time is to look at various options. If government is investing in infrastructure, if government is investing in education, what it means is that our people are likely to go to school, and once they are educated, then the tendency that they are going to find jobs, the tendency that they are going to be able to earn more money that they can use to help their families is actually higher. If we continue to also spend this money in subsidizing petroleum products, what you're going to find is that we are not going to have people that are employed as well. So it is a catch-22 situation, but the truth of the matter is that the governments have taken the right step, and which is to tell Nigerians that this cannot continue. And also to look at what is it that we can do directly to those poorest Nigerians that are going to be hardly hit by this. I give you an example. It is the rich people that maintain 3, 4, 5 vehicles. Usually when the price of a commodity is not determined by the market forces, what you find is that investment in that space becomes very limited. When the market does not truly reflect the price of anything, then you cannot pass PIB, where you are calling on investors to come into the market and invest, and at the same time continues to subsidize that product. So what I believe that government have done, first, the last administration passed the PIB. As part of its implementation, full deregulation is required. And that's the reason why I believe that the president made that speech, even though, typical business people in Nigeria had taken advantage of, trying to maximize revenue from the market based on the old stock that they have. But ultimately, it's important that we work together, trusting the government in the provision of those palliatives.
Absolutely. That's what the biggest challenge is for Nigerians, how a lot of marketers have taken advantage of that announcement. But I'm sure the government will find a way to handle that going forward. But I also wanted to talk to you about the National Assembly leadership. We see the tussle around the 10th National Assembly leadership. The APC has its list out. It is the South-South and Northwest in the Senate, and the Northwest and the Southeast in the House of Representatives. But how do you see this playing out? What do you think is the amicable path forward?
Oh, thank you very much. You have to remember that I'm of the All Progressives Congress, and what has happened over the year, since the general elections, is that the party has let its position known to all the elected members of the National Assembly. And of course, to all Nigerians, the party already took a position with respect to the leadership of the Senate. The party already took a position with respect to the leadership of the House of Representatives. And I believe that as party men, you remember when that list came out, the North Central obviously wasn't really happy about it because of what has happened. But you can also see that the party has also moved. The president has moved to address that issue by appointing someone from the North Central, a very good party man and a solid administrator, as the secretary to the government of the Federation. That's what, as someone coming from the Southeast, I would have expected more. But it's important that we call on Nigerians and call on the elected representatives of the people to stay with the party position. This is politics, and the beauty of politics is that you can always engage. You can always try and work out. There are other means of compensation for people that want this and cannot get that. It's important that the elected representative support the party position so that the government can take off on a smooth note. We don't want to have a situation where government is taking off and there are bickerings here and there. The president has made his agenda very clear, and he has started very brilliantly, taking the very important decisions. He now needs the National Assembly to also take their position, and we need them to start on a smooth and running note. And that's the reason why we are calling on all of our elected representatives to actually obey the party position. And whatever be the case, negotiations are still ongoing. Take your matter to the party, and eventually I believe that we'll all still melt and come down to the same party position. And that's where I stand as a person.
The president is meeting with opposition lawmakers-elect, or is to meet with them on Thursday. We'll see how that plays out. Always great speaking with you, Nigerian ambassador to Burundi, Elijah Onyeagba. Thank you for talking to us.